Come on, Twitch dashboard. Don't let me down.
Oh,
There we
wrong
are.
podcast page.
It's been a while since we've gone live.
Right?
Almost like 6 episodes, I think.
Let's see, we're back live talking SimCity.
Let me see. I got some news items here. If we feel like we're running short on time, we can always cut like the last one.
Yeah, I figured we could, even if it's brief, we could talk about Castlevania.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to put that in here. Why did I knew I was forgetting something. But remind me to talk about that.
I figured we could do that in the beginning.
Yeah, I can't believe we forgot. I forgot to put that in here. Damn it.
Oh, it's all good. All right, it is posted on Facebook.
I'm pretty much ready to go if you are.
Yep, and I may go ahead and do it after the show, or I might do it first thing in the morning, but I'll update all the graphics and everything.
Okay. Yeah, those graphics are awesome.
Oh, thank you. No, it took me 4 or 5 different tries. Like, I tried something this morning. I was going to create 8-bit versions of ourselves, but I got frustrated with it and just had to walk away for a bit. But
I thought about doing that too, but that's really time consuming.
it is. I even watched a Photoshop tutorial, and it's not that it's that hard. It just takes a while to do.
Yeah. That's just one of those things I'm like, man, that would be awesome to do. And then I sit down to do it, and I'm like, I'll do it later.
Yeah. That is true.
Well, if we're good to go, I will get us started.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Do you like the show and want to help support us? Do you want us to stay ad-free? Do you want extra episodes every month? Well, then head over to patreon.com/nerdcaveretro and become a Patreon supporter of this very show. Programs, and welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Cave Retro Show. My name is Jason Robbins.
And my name is Derek Diamond.
And we are finally live again after about a month and a half of no live shows, and we apologize for that. But now, if you prefer to watch us on either Twitch or YouTube, we are back. So you're welcome.
Yeah, it's been a pretty crazy couple of months, from things outside sources and whatnot, but we've still been doing the show on a fairly regular basis, and I know we mentioned it before, but had a lot of fun doing the live panel at Gulf Coast Fan Fest. We're hoping to do one for Pensacon in February, which we haven't confirmed it yet, but really hope to do that and maybe do some other live shows between now and then.
I am working on doing a live show here in the Biloxi area. I got to talk to some people that can make that happen, and I'm going to try to get that for sometime in December if I can. So I will let everyone know as soon as that happens. I don't think it'll be a problem. It's just kind of logistics of being able to find a night that we can do it. And we'll have a live show, and we'll do a big deal with it. So that'll be fun, and we'll have Wally back on the live episode because I love having Wally on the live shows.
Well, somebody's got to keep us honest.
And you know what? I went back and listened to the episode we did, the round table for our Halloween episode, last episode. That was one of our best episodes. Like I don't know what it was about that show, but I had so much fun making that show.
Well, when you surround yourself with great talent like Wally and Joey Image, it can't help but be great.
I went back and listened to it, and we had some pretty funny moments in that episode.
I promise not to use the "up yours with a twirling lawnmower" quote as constantly as I want to.
Hey, up yours with a twirling lawnmower.
I will say it again. What does that mean?
The 80s at its finest.
I love doing our retro movie episodes, so I think we should do those more often. I think we should starting maybe not this year, but next year we should do one for every holiday, and we'll find some holiday movie from like from the 80s to cover for each holiday.
Well, I will go ahead. I know it's over a year out, but I would love to do Planes, Trains, and Automobiles
That
for
was my
Thanksgiving.
first.
That's one of my favorite holiday movies ever.
That was going to be my first suggestion. And then after the year after that, we can do Dutch. You ever seen Dutch?
I have not. I've heard of it, but never seen it.
It's awesome. It's got Al Bundy in it, and
Oh, nice.
It's really fun. It's a really good movie, and I don't know why it's not considered more of a classic. But yeah, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is awesome, and of course we would have to do National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation for Christmas.
Of course.
But there's really no end to retro Christmas movies we could do. You got the Christmas Story, which is a staple of me growing up watching that movie at Christmas. The National Lampoons, of course, Trading Places is a Christmas movie. Die Hard. I don't care what anybody says.
It's a Christmas movie.
A Christmas movie. So if you don't think so, you're wrong.
No, you'll get no argument from me.
So is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we jump into the news this evening?
Yeah, I actually finished this right after we did last week's show, and I know you finished it as well. Season 2 of Castlevania on Netflix.
I'm already in my
awesome.
second watch through right now. That's how good it is.
Now, I didn't know that much about Castlevania up until, you reviewed the first game on this show and then the Netflix show came out. And I was really blown away by season 1. It was really short, but I thought it told a very good, concise story. And they added, I think, 4 more episodes for season 2. And as great as season 1 is, season 2 is so much better, in my opinion.
I'm not a huge anime fan. I mean, there's some anime that I like. I really like Spirited Away. I think that's a really good movie. But when it comes to regular anime that people are into, I'm just not that into it. I don't know, name off some of the stuff that like is huge anime. More than likely, I've never seen it. But there's something about this Castlevania series that just I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's so good. Like you forget
the style fits the genre perfectly.
You forget that it's a cartoon. Like it's so good. And then of course saw the other day on Twitter that it has been greenlit for season 3, and yes.
And it will be 10 episodes long.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah. Now I know I sent you this story, and there's no truth to it yet, but they're saying that the same group of people who made Castlevania will be making a Zelda series. Now, it's not confirmed, but I will say, if it's true, I have all the faith that they can pull it off. And if it's officially announced, you will hear me scream.
Me too. Good evening to Mr. Joey Image, who is joining us in the chat room this evening.
The great Joey Image.
Yes. He said he just finished. No, he hasn't finished season 1 yet, but looking forward to it. Dude, you got to get on that.
It's great.
You got to get on that.
And the cool thing is all the episodes are only 20 to 25 minutes long, you can watch really both seasons in a day if you wanted.
I mean, the first season is less than 2 hours. It's like a movie.
Yeah, I sat down one day after work, I think, and watched all of season 1, and then watched season 2 over the course of 2 or 3 days. Yeah. But it's really, really good.
I watched the season in 2 days.
If you're not even a big Castlevania fan, I would still recommend watching it because it's just a good show.
Oh yeah, it's great. I wish it was 24 episode seasons. I would eat that up.
Same.
But let's go ahead and move into the news. We got some interesting news stories this evening. I'll let you have this first one since you showed this to me the other day.
So this comes to us from sci-fi.com. Brie Larson wants to make a Metroid movie and star as Samus Aran. Apparently, Brie Larson isn't just into dressing up as Samus Aran from Metroid for Halloween. She actually wants to play the role for an upcoming movie, should it ever get made. The Academy Award-winning actress, who will also star in the upcoming Captain Marvel, took to Instagram to show off her Halloween costume as Zero Suit Samus, which she pulls off quite well. Let's see. On Friday, in response to a fan wondering on Twitter if this is the closest we can hope to get to a Metroid movie being made, Larson replied, "I hope not. I want to make that movie." So what do you think?
I'm totally okay with that.
I agree 100%. Now, I've only seen Brie Larson in a very limited number of movies. She's definitely got the look for Samus.
Yeah.
I can see this maybe the story building a little more after Captain Marvel comes out.
Oh, yeah.
I just hope that with the success of Castlevania, and I think the real story is going to be if the rumored Zelda series is true. If that happens, that to me says Nintendo is now more open to releasing their IPs to be made into other medium.
Well, it's
Yeah,
like we talked about the other day. You know, Castlevania makes a great ongoing series. Zelda would make a great ongoing series. But I think, you know, a Metroid, it would fit more as like, you know, a huge, big budget 2-hour action movie.
Absolutely.
Sort of like almost a little like Aliens or something, you know?
And especially now with the, lead female hero being a big thing now.
Yeah.
I can see this happening. I would love to. I think Metroid has been far overlooked, and I think that it would actually make a really fun, badass sci-fi action movie.
Well, I think once Captain Marvel comes out and she's got the star power to pull it off, I think that she would be able to get a Metroid movie made. I think she would have enough pull after. I mean, not that she doesn't have any pull now, but I think, being Captain Marvel and that movie comes out next year, it's going to blow up. I mean, it's going to be just as big as Wonder Woman. I think I would not be surprised if we hear as soon as Captain Marvel breaks box office records, we're going to hear about a Metroid movie with her.
I hope so.
I would not be surprised.
I'd love to see it. I mean, I'd love to see, so many Nintendo properties being made into either series or movies, because a lot of them would make great stories. It's just we haven't had the chance to see them yet.
Oh, yeah. And this story here, I mean, this is a little over a week old or so, but we haven't really had a chance to talk about it. This is on Polygon.com. Sony reveals its PlayStation Classic game lineup. And some of the games that are on it are... some of them I figured would be on there, like Metal Gear Solid, Rayman, Resident Evil Director's Cut, Siphon Filter, Tekken 3, Twisted Metal, of course. But that's kind of it as far as anything that I would really want to play. It's really... I'm not that interested. There's nothing really on here that just jumps out at me to be like, hey, you guys, it's going to be $99.99 when it comes out. I don't know if that's worth it, honestly.
You forgot Final Fantasy VII.
I didn't want to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Stephanie who mentioned on Twitter, because I made the comment, no Crash Bandicoot, that is all.
Yeah.
She made the point, I'm pretty sure it was her, made the point of, well, they just did the remastered versions. They're about to release the remastered Spyro. But I still think you should at least put the original versions of like the first games of those respective series on here, just for namesake, because to me, Crash and Spyro are synonymous with the PlayStation 1. And I mean, looking at this list, I could think of really just about every game that I would take Crash and Spyro over.
Well, do you think if this thing fails, which I don't think it will, but if it does, do you think this might be the, I don't know, kind of the tipping point of the, classic or mini consoles? Do you think this might be the kind of the nail in the coffin because the oversaturation point?
It's definitely possible. I think there's enough on this for the diehard PlayStation fans that it's not going to sell as well as the NES or the SNES classics, but I think it'll have its niche. I mean, between Resident Evil, the original Grand Theft Auto, Twisted Metal, and I'll say Final Fantasy VII, there'll be enough where I think it will sell decent.
Yeah,
but not that great.
We're not going to see NES classic numbers on this thing.
No.
Joey Image said the world needs a Dreamcast classic. It only had like 8 games for it. So.
I like the Dreamcast. I think next year might be. Is next year the 20-year anniversary of the Dreamcast? Let me look that up real quick, because I know Sonic Adventure came out in '99.
He said that he doesn't. He said the PlayStation Classic doesn't come with a power cable, supposedly.
Why would it not come with a power cable?
I don't know. It didn't say anything about that in this article.
That's interesting.
I'll have to look that up. That'd be weird if it doesn't have a power cable.
Yeah. Speaking of the Dreamcast, it was released in Japan in November of '98.
Yeah.
September of '99 in North America, and October '99 in Europe.
99.99 is when it came out.
Mm-hmm. I might have to when we hit 2019, I might have to review a Dreamcast game or two for its 20-year anniversary.
But speaking of the NES and the Super Nintendo Classic, I'll let you have this next story. That leads us right into this story.
Fantastic segue. This comes to us from NintendoLife.com. SNES Mini and NES Mini combined global sales surpass 10 million.
That's a lot.
Yes, the SNES and NES classics have proven to be a huge success for Nintendo since the systems were launched and resulted in many companies trying to emulate this success with their own retro devices. It turns out both of Nintendo's miniature systems have been so successful, combined global sales have now surpassed 10 million units.
That's a lot of units.
As a comparison, the lifetime sales for the Wii U were just under 14 million.
Hey, and they've had a price drop too on the Nintendo Classics. I saw some in Target the other day that were $59.99.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're actually, you can find them in more stores. Like I've seen them in Target recently. I've seen them in Best Buy. So it's good that they're actually keeping them in stock, because I remember us still ranting on Nintendo after the whole fiasco with the NES Classic.
I just don't see how they didn't know that it was going to sell as well as it did. I mean, 10 million units is, dude, that's crazy. Like, I knew it would sell probably 2 or 3. I think we said at the time, you should bank on at least 2 to 3 million units. But 10, good Lord.
It's insane. It's great, though.
As much as it sold
I
back
love
in
it.
the 80s.
Right?
Before our last story, I just X'd out my Twitch screen. Hold on, let me get back to Twitch real quick. This story here, because BlizzCon was last week, I did want to touch on this story. Diablo 3 is out for the Switch now, also Dark Souls. This comes to us from TheVerge.com. With Diablo 3 and Dark Souls for Switch, you never have to leave the dungeon. It's a great week to be a Nintendo Switch owner with a penchant for exploring fantasy dungeons, taking on terrifying monsters, and collecting powerful loot. 2 of the biggest action role-playing series in the world, Dark Souls and Diablo, have just made their Nintendo debut. Diablo 3 came out for the PC in 2012. I have Diablo 3 for the PC. I've played through it multiple times. I like to play the seasons on it. It's really the only Blizzard game that I really still play a lot. And I would love to see an announcement for Diablo 4. But Diablo 3 is also coming to mobile devices really soon, too. But if you haven't ever played it and you like action RPGs, like dungeon crawlers, like I love Diablo, the Diablo series, I love Torchlight, all those kind of games, pick it up for the Switch. It's out now. I don't think I'm going to get it for the Switch because I have played through it a lot on the PC. But if you've never played it, it is a really, really good game, and you should go pick that up for the Switch if you have one.
I've heard great things about the Diablo games. I remember when 2 and 3 came out and it being a really big deal.
Oh,
So
Joey said Diablo Immortal on mobile isn't D3. It's a new game. I didn't know that. I thought it was just a Diablo 3 port.
Oh, cool.
Did not know that. Oh, but what were you saying? I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that I've never played the Diablo games, but I remember when 2 and 3 came out and it being a huge deal.
Yeah.
So this might be one of those things that I have to give a try, maybe, during the Christmas break. And, I haven't ever played Dark Souls, but heard good things about it as well. And it's just cool that so many of these games are actually coming out on the Switch. Like, it shows that third-party developers really have the faith in it. And I think that's going to be, we've mentioned it before, but that's going to be key to the Switch surviving, which I truly think it's going to.
So Joey said it actually takes place between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 for the mobile game. So I might have to get that.
Sweet.
But yeah, if you Derek, if you've never played Diablo 3, dude, pick it up for the Switch. Because I know they did a really good port of it for the PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
And now they've brought it to the Nintendo Switch, which we both love.
Everything should be on the Switch.
But let's go ahead and move into this month in video game history. Let's see, where are we at here? In 1980, November 12th, Stern Electronics releases Berserk, with designer Alec McNeil's signature on the monitor glass of each cabinet. I love Berserk. I used to play the hell out of this game on the Atari 2600. I'm going to go so far as to say it's one of the top 5 best games for the Atari 2600.
No lie, when I read through this list earlier, I instantly thought of the song Berserker from Clerks.
Yeah. My love
Berserker,
is like a truck berserker.
Berserker. But no, I've heard of Berserk, but never played it.
You should. It's one of those kind of brainless games where you just kind of go from screen to screen, and then there's this smiley face called what's his name? Evil Otto that comes through, and Evil Otto used to scare the crap out of me when I was a kid.
Oh, I'm sure you got this little evil face floating through like random rooms following you.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Berserk was great.
Also in November of 1980, Namco releases Rally X, the first game with a bonus round. That's a pretty cool fact. It also features multi-directional scrolling.
Rally X. I remember us talking about this last year. Oh, yeah. I remember Rally X. I used to
This reminds
love this
me
game.
of a story I was going to tell you.
What's that?
So last Saturday, I went to Fort Walton to watch my friend's band play. And it was this little hole in the wall bar called the Green Door, and in it they had one of those like tabletop arcade machines, like with the screen built into the table. It was Pac-Man, and I played it, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I want a Miss Pac-Man cocktail machine. Like, that's one of the things I want to have before I die.
I think that'd be a great addition to your home.
Yes, it would. And also November of 1980, it was a good year for video games. Universal releases Space Panic, the first game with platforms and ladders. The term platform game was still several years in the future.
Well, this even predates Donkey Kong.
Oh, this even looks like Donkey Kong.
Mm-hmm.
I think Nintendo ripped somebody off.
Dun, dun, dun. Let's see. In November of 1983, Sega releases Astron Belt in the United States.
I never heard of Astron Belt. It didn't even have a link to it.
Mm-mm. This might sound crazy to say, and if we've talked about it, then I apologize, but I had no idea that Sega was around that early.
Yeah, I know that lately we've been talking about a lot of Sega stuff early in the '80s. I know this is when they started to release around '83, I think '82, '83 is when they started to release the Mark, the Mark One, the Mark Two, and the Mark Three, which were the Sega not Master Systems, yeah, Master System over here, and the
Hmm.
Mark One. And I actually just saw one the other day. It's kind of crazy looking. Like it's hard to describe. You have to look it up and just take a look at it. It's kind of a cross between like an Atari and maybe like a Commodore or something. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
It's just my first instinctual thought of Sega is always early '90s with
Oh yeah,
the Genesis and Sonic, but yeah, it's just still crazy to think that they've been around for that long.
Genesis does what Nintendo don't. November 14th of 1987, Sierra Online, we talk about them a lot, releases Space Quest 2, Vohal's Revenge, the second game in the Space Quest series. You don't say. Thanks, Wikipedia.
I like the poster a lot.
Ah,
It makes me think of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Joey just put a link for Astron Belt in the chat room. It is being the Astron Belt. I've heard about this. It was the first Laserdisc arcade game to be released, a format that would later gain greater traction with Dragon's Lair and Space Ace.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, this was on the video game years. I do remember hearing about this game. Thanks, Joey.
Shout out to Joey.
You got another Sierra Online game here.
Yeah. On November 9th of 1990, Sierra Online releases King's Quest V.
Do you think that is a sequel to King's Quest 4?
It might even be a prequel to King's Quest VI,
Maybe. I
if there
don't
is such a
know.
thing.
On
God,
November 1st?
they were busy during that time.
Oh, I know. Back in the 80s, Sierra was all over the place. November 1st, Mega Man 3 is released in the U.S. I love me some Mega Man. I've been wanting to get Mega Man 11. I played the demo on the Switch, and I am getting it as soon as I can. I haven't had any extra cash because, as everyone knows, when you go into the hospital a lot, you don't have a whole lot of extra money. So I'm waiting to get an extra
Yeah.
$30 to plop down for Mega Man 11.
How's the demo?
It's really good. Dude, you should go download it tonight and play it.
I might just have to do that. On November 21st, 1990, Nintendo releases Super Mario World and F-Zero in Japan as launch titles for the Super Famicom. Mario World introduced Yoshi, and F-Zero introduced Captain Falcon.
Captain Falcon. He's actually he is in Smash Brothers, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been in the Smash Brothers games since the original one.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. He was one of the, I think he was one of the original unlockable characters. Because in the first game you started with 8, and then you had to unlock. It was Luigi, Jigglypuff, Captain Falcon, and then Ness from Earthbound. So, yeah, Captain Falcon, he's a staple of Smash Brothers. He's widely portrayed as a what we would call a tool bag, but it actually fits perfectly. Like he's the fun kind of douchey.
And you know what? I think it's high time we should get a new F-Zero.
I don't think we've had one of those since the GameCube. I remember there was a GameCube game that was unbelievably hard, but I think that might have been the most recent one.
Joey was asking if Mega Man 11 has a demo for anything other than the Switch. Demo, let me see.
I'm not sure.
For not Xbox One. Yeah. Looks like it's for PC, in the Microsoft Store, for the Xbox.
It's on the PlayStation Store.
Yep. It is on pretty much being able to get a demo for all of those. So if you're interested, go pick that up.
Sweet.
Let's see. On November 30th of 1990, Sega's Mega Drive was released in Europe, which of course was the Genesis over here.
Sega Mania ran wild.
Yes, it did. Oh, and speaking of that, I was gonna... Should I... for next week, I was going to review WrestleMania on the Nintendo for next week, but I don't know if I can. That is quite possibly the worst game I've ever played in my life.
I've never played any of those old, because I wasn't introduced to the wrestling games until the 64. So I've never played any of the old, like, NES, Super Nintendo wrestling games.
So bad. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to review it next week, and I am going to trash it.
But it's been a while since we've had a good rant on the show.
I need a good trashing next week. Get it all out of my system before the end of 2018. I need to release some of this pent-up anger that I've built up in 2018, and I'm going to release it on WrestleMania for the NES.
You just cut a wrestling promo.
Yeah.
I have to make some popcorn before next week's show, and I'm just going to sit back, mute my mic, and just...
Yep. I haven't had a good rant since Fester's Quest, so it's time.
That's one of my favorite episodes. On November 5th, remember the 5th of November of 1995, Twisted Metal was released by Sony Computer Entertainment and started the longest-running PlayStation franchise, Popular Vehicular Combat Series. I haven't played Twisted Metal in a long time.
I haven't either, but I used to love playing that game, though.
Mm-hmm.
It probably looks like ass now.
Yeah, like a lot of games from that era.
Yeah. And to round us out for this week, on November 20th of 1995, Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Kong Quest was released by Rareware Nintendo. It was the second best-selling game in 1995, the sixth best-selling game on the SNES, and the highest-selling SNES title to not be packaged with the system.
Love this game. To me, easily the best in that entire trilogy. And that's saying a lot, because Donkey Kong Country 1 was great. 3 was pretty good, but 2 had just... It was the perfect example of a sequel that took what worked in the first game and just added to it and made it so much better.
Yeah, I actually just picked up a copy of Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo last week. And man, that game is good. Holy crap, it holds up like crazy.
Love the art style.
Oh, yeah.
Love the gameplay, everything.
Like, I can't believe that was on the Super Nintendo. I mean, don't get me wrong. The games on the Super Nintendo look great. But Donkey Kong Country was just in a league of its own, man. Like, that game just looks and plays so good. That is a masterpiece.
And it's great to play if you have somebody who can be, Diddy or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It's awesome. Love that series so much.
But now that we are out of the video game history portion of our show, we are going to be talking about...
Such tranquil music.
I know.
So this is a game that I've teased for the last couple of episodes, and I can't really explain why I've been wanting to go back and play this, because I haven't played it since it was originally on the Super Nintendo. But this week I will be reviewing SimCity for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It was the first console game in the SimCity series and one of the launch titles for the SNES, which I believe it was actually the original game was made in 1989 for the
Yes.
was it for the NES?
No, actually,
It's not
this
really.
was it was released for computer first in
That's right.
1989. And wow, looking at the platforms it was on, like I can't even list all this stuff. I mean, it was out for Microsoft Windows, Linux, Mac OS, Wii, PlayStation, Nintendo 64, Sega Saturn, like Amiga, Atari. I mean, everywhere you could possibly play this, it was on.
Yeah, it's crazy to think how long this series has been around. And honestly, I haven't played a Sims game since this version that I am going to be talking about tonight. To give a little backstory on how I was introduced to this game, when I was a kid, I used to go to my uncle's house after school and I would just play random games from Link to the Past to Mario World, Ninja Turtles. And I remembered he had this game called SimCity, and I had no idea what it was about. Plugged it in, and that same music played, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of catchy." And I found out you just build stuff, and that's really the premise of the game. Is you pick a map. So it's crazy to think because I had forgotten about this up until I bought a copy last week. You have just under 1,000 varieties of maps to choose from. Uh, some are surrounded by water. Some have water, going through the middle. So you have to build mass transit to go from one side to the other. So each map presents, its own uniqueness. And it's kind of crazy to think that there's that much variety in a Super Nintendo game. So basically what you do is you start with your map, and the objective of the game is to build the biggest and most successful city that you possibly can. You start out, depending on the difficulty, if you choose the easy mode, you start out with 20 or 30 grand. And you can build 3 different types of zones. You can build residential, which are houses, apartments, commercial, which are your shopping centers, or industrial, which are like your factories, power plants. You can build an airport, a football stadium, a seaport.
Don't forget
If
your
you
police
have
stations.
hmm?
Don't forget your police stations.
your police and your fire departments, which my first go around I did not build enough police stations, and
Crime
the little
running
siren
rampant.
came off and you had Dr. Wright running all over the screen freaking out saying there's too much crime in your city, build more police departments.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of addicting as far as the style of gameplay. And like I said, this is the only Sims type game that I've ever played. But I've found myself, because I've had, this week off from work. I started on Sunday, built my basic city. And as you unlock certain objectives, like say when you get to a certain population number, you're upgraded from a town to a city and so on and so forth. You basically get gifts, like you can build a zoo, an amusement park, a casino, and each do different things. Like obviously if you bring in an amusement park, it's going to bring in more people. If you build a casino, it's going to bring in more money. If you build a certain number of police stations, you get a police headquarters. Same thing with your fire department. Once you get to a city, I think it is, you get a bank, and then you can take out a loan, which you have to be very careful with because you get more money, but it also eats away at the income that you have to give up at the end of every year.
That's when you raise taxes on everybody.
Yeah, and then they leave, which that happened to me too.
It's funny. Like you would think like a city builder or something like that would be boring, but it's not. Like this is such a fun game. I remember putting a lot of hours into this game back when I was a kid, and I love like city builder type games, especially like stuff like Roller Coaster Tycoon and things like that. Like, I have to stay away from games like Roller Coaster Tycoon because I will get so sucked into those games and just
Yeah.
like not sleep. So I have to stay far away from like sim type of games, like city builders or any kind of you know, theme park builders or anything like that. I have to stay away.
Well, it's funny because all day Sunday, well, Sunday afternoon when I got home from having lunch with some friends, I turned SimCity back on and just started doing more things, and then I just let it sit for a while. And I was going between this and watching reruns of Cheers. I had basically in my living room, I've got, my primary TV, and then I've got a desk that's off to the left of it. And I set up a little TV and the Super Nintendo there. So I would play SimCity for a little bit and then go back to watching TV. And I would look back, just, some more things would happen. I never quite got to the, I think after city is capital, because after, your population gets to a certain point, it upgrades the title of your city.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite get to that. But this game is really, really fun. I forgot how much fun it was. And it's one of those games that took me right back to when I was a kid. And back then I wasn't that great at it because I would build my city up to a certain point, and then a cool feature is you can actually trigger a disaster to happen. So if you want to start over, you can cause, a tidal wave to hit, or my personal favorite, you just have Bowser descend on the city and he just torches all of it.
It's so tempting.
Like you open that option and you just see his little silhouette with fire coming out of his mouth, and you're just like, oh, I want to do it.
Yeah.
But I can't.
But this game was really well done for the Super Nintendo. I think this is probably one of the must-haves for the Super Nintendo.
I agree. And they're really, as far as around here goes, very easy to find. Like the game's not difficult to track down.
No, it's not rare by any stretch of the imagination.
No, and it's cheap too. I got it for like $6.
Yeah.
Because when I went to Price Busters, they had 2 or 3 copies.
Oh yeah, same.
So and they've
place here, the Play and Talk. There's always 2 or 3 copies at the store at any given time.
Yeah, but I feel like this game, and I know the Sims games are popular, but I feel like this game specifically doesn't really get talked about when it comes to other Super Nintendo games.
And it's kind of a shame, because a lot of, and I know they're not the same type of games, but, as far as a simulator type game, everybody always like goes to like Pilot Wings or something like that. And Pilot Wings gets talked about a lot. I think SimCity deserves to be way further up on that list of like simulator type games for the Super Nintendo.
Oh, I agree. And one cool thing, and I hope they keep this edition in Smash Brothers, but I think it might have been Smash Brothers Brawl when they introduced the assist trophy. So basically, this case will drop on the map that you're fighting on, and when you pick it up, a random character will pop out. And one of the characters that can pop out is Dr. Wright from SimCity, and he'll like raise his hands up, and this miniature city will randomly appear from underneath one of your opponents, and it'll throw them off the map.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember not even knowing about it, and then all of a sudden he pops up, and I'm like, oh, it's that guy from SimCity.
And, we talked about, you were talking about doing SimCity. Well, I actually picked up a copy of Populous as well. And I have not played Populous over 25 years probably. And I don't have the instructions for it. So I started playing it the other night, and there's a tutorial mode. Even in the tutorial mode, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to have to download maybe like an instruction manual for it or something, because I got so lost on what to do. So
Yeah, I never played Populous.
I'd like to review it, but I'd like to be able to play it first.
That's always key.
Yeah.
But this game is really good, and like I said at the beginning, I don't know what inspired me to want to play it again. I randomly thought about it one day. I was like, you know what? I haven't played SimCity since I had my original Super Nintendo. I would really love to play that game again.
It's
And I'm
really,
glad I did, because it's one of those things that you can play it while not playing it.
Yeah.
Because once you get your city to a certain point, or in my case, you run out of money, you just kind of watch, like you watch your cars go around, like drive on the different roads. They look like little ants.
Yeah. Well,
It's just really cool to watch.
It's such a highly underrated game, and one of those games you just don't hear about very often, especially for the Super Nintendo. You always hear about, the Super Mario World and like Donkey Kong Country and all that kind of stuff, but SimCity was a pretty, I wouldn't say a huge deal, but it was, it was a pretty big game back then. Like, it was really popular, and I don't know why it's not really looked at more as a Super Nintendo classic. I guess because not a lot of people are into city builders and stuff like that, but I think anybody could get into this game, no matter what kind of game you like to play.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree.
And like you said, it's a great time waster too. Like, it just kind of, you don't have to be super like focused on it unless you want to be. It's just kind of one of those kind of kick back and let's just play this for a little while kind of games.
It's a very chill game.
Yeah.
Like, there's not really a lot of anxiety that goes into it, like, several other games that we've talked about.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of calming in a way.
Yeah,
which I think is really
cool. Yeah. I sometimes I just like a good calming game. I think that's why I like city builder type games and like the tycoon type of games, because they're just you just kind of kick back and you very carefully think about what you want to do, where you want to put things. Like, oh, we need to make more money, so we need to put this in over here. Oh, we need more of this over here. And you just kind of slowly build things like your city or whatnot. And I like that type of gaming, especially the older I get, the more I want to play more chilled out games like that. Like, I love the Civilization games, the Sid Meier Civilization. Mm-hmm. Those are some of my favorite games to play too, and I can easily get sucked into those games. Like, the last time I played, I have Civ 5 in my Steam account, and I have to stay away from it because the last time I played it, I think I started at like 9 o'clock at night, and I thought I had been playing for maybe an hour or two. It was like 4 in the morning. And I was like, holy
crap.
Shit, I got to go to bed. and I hadn't even finished a game. I was like still in the middle of like the first game I started.
Wow.
So yeah, I have to stay away from those type of games because I will, like, my ADD will just like laser focus on those type of games.
Sounds like it.
So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't find a ton of reviews for this game, but I did find one because this game was released on the Wii Virtual Console back in 2006, and IGN gave it a 7.5 out of 10. It says a lasting appeal that gave it an 8. It says, if you're the kind of gamer who likes a laid-back pace of play, SimCity will offer hours of enjoyment. An extra scenario mode challenges you with specific municipal problems to overcome as well. That was another thing that I forgot to mention, is that you can actually select different settings. So say, for example, you can start a pre-made city that's been affected by a disaster, and your job is to repair it within a certain amount of time.
I don't remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't remember what that mode was called, but I've never tried it, but I think it would be kind of fun.
Well, I'm gonna have to pick up a copy of this. I have a ROM of this. What? I don't have a ROM. What are you talking about? No ROM. But I would actually. I think.
Sorry,
I'm gonna get a.
You cut out for a second.
Yeah.
There.
no wrong. But I'm gonna have to get an actual copy of this. And like I said, they never run out of copies of this at the local retro game store. So I'm gonna go pick up a copy for like $6-7 and have me a nice lazy Saturday playing SimCity.
No, that sounds great. As far as a grade, I think I would agree with IGN. Like I would give it, I'd give it a solid 7.5. It's a game that requires thought, but it also doesn't really require thought.
Yeah. Well, it's not like, you know, it's not like a platformer or anything. You have to be like constantly like, paying attention. Like that's why I like playing these games so much.
Mm-hmm. But this game was cool to go back and play, and definitely gonna keep track of my city.
Awesome.
So if you have a Super Nintendo, highly recommend it. Very good game.
Well, that's going to bring us to the end of the episode. And like I said, I guess I'll go ahead and review WrestleMania next week. It's so awful. Why do I do these things to myself? Why do I play crap games like that and then want to review it? Well, why do I do this to myself?
It's for the good of the show.
I guess so. So is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we get out of here this evening?
Did you want to do our listener email?
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Here we go. Let me play.
I'll do my plugs after that.
Let me play a little bit of music here. This comes from Clint James. He emailed us. He said, "Hey guys, just wanted to let you know how much I enjoy the show. I started listening to the podcast around episode 10 and was hooked. Like you, I too am a Nintendo aficionado. Also wanted to say we're practically neighbors as I live a couple hours north of Biloxi. Cool. So keep up the great work, fellas, and it is certainly a privilege to listen." Well, thank you, Mr. Clint James, for listening, and spread the word. Spread the good word of the Nerd Cave Retro.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening.
And also on Facebook, Mr. Brandon Rutledge, who is a regular for on our Facebook page. I still have my SNES copy of SimCity, but I think I traded it for a copy of Populous. Derek Diamond, just like you, he played SimCity just to have Bowser destroy everything. His memories for Night Trap comes from all the controversy with the news articles that came up back then, but would love to hear us review that one. I really do want to get a copy of that, but it's not much of a game. I mean, I'll do that, but it'll be early next year before I get around to that. And he got to play Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse briefly, since a friend of his had a copy. Quoting the angry video game nerd, "Your worst enemy is the stairs." Well, of course. I like the character switch mechanic. From what he remembers, Sypha is the best choice for speedruns. It is also one of the earliest games to have branching paths in the story. It was another game that fit the term Nintendo hard. And yes, that game is hard, and I still have not finished it. Even though I've been playing it a lot. It's hard. Stupid stairs. There are too many freaking stairs in that damn game. Too many. They need to cut back. I don't know who was programming the stairs for that game, but he was way too overzealous, and he definitely got his paycheck worth of making stairs.
Gotta love stairs.
But you haven't played it yet, have you? Castlevania 3?
I have not.
You should. It's a great game. It's worth playing, but too many damn stairs. That's all I have to say about it.
I'm gonna see staircases in my nightmares after I play it.
Mm-hmm. You will. I don't want to walk downstairs. I don't want to see stairs. Stupid stairs. But anything else you want to talk about before we go tonight?
No, just been doing a couple of interviews, getting ready to relaunch the Derek Diamond Experience. I've done, I think, 2 so far. Both have gone over really well. I'm actually doing 2 next week. One right before we do next week's Nerd Cave Retro. So I'll be all warmed up and ready to go for next week's show.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that will be relaunching January 3rd of 2019.
Cool.
And if you want to stay up to date on my upcoming short film, just find The Parker Syndrome on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to go ahead and play our outro music here. And if you would like to email us, you can email us at nerdcaveretro@gmail.com. We are at nerdcaveretro.com. We are on Instagram and Twitter at nerdcaveretro, and individually at jfunktastic and at Derek_Diamond. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdcaveretro. Please go support us over on Patreon at patreon.com/nerdcaveretro. And don't forget to leave us a review wherever you download this podcast. So, Derek, please tell everyone what it's all about.
May the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.
Monkey!
Haven't heard that one in a bit.
So I guess I will go ahead and stop the Twitch stream. So thank you for everybody that watched us on Twitch tonight. And I will go ahead and get the show uploaded. And the audio version will be available tomorrow morning. So bye, everybody.
Along with the new logo.
Yes.